I kind of begrudgingly respect just the dedication to not getting better at what you do for a living. Just coast through life.
It probably shouldn't even happen.
If you got it, you got to flaunt it, Acid.
You know what? I got a lot of stuff that I don't want to flaunt, so I just keep it to myself.
Jeremy is really big into the used mattresses. Excellent deal.
He has a used mattress store on the side.
I'm not going to pull the pants down without the pants down cue.
And we found out that Anthony's friends are all 13-year-old boys. Nice.
Clay, how you doing?
Doing a little more poorly after that terrible introduction. I was just fine, to be honest with you.
Hello, Sci-Fi Gangstas. This is the show where we talk about science fiction, comic books, and video games. So really, it's just an excuse for me to catch up with my friends and to meet interesting people. I'm Anthony Denar, media scholar and person who loves talking about intellectual property, fighting other intellectual property. That's what we're going to be doing today, right? This is the first time we've ever done this before. Jeremy, I know you've been wanting to do this for a long time. You always pitch this topic, and I always shoot it down. I don't always shoot it down. But so what we're going to do today is we're going to do some conversations, perhaps debates. Maybe it'll be a little bit heated like it was between me and Acid when we were talking about the Matrix Resurrections, right? Got a little heated between me and him. But we'll be talking about some superhero or supervillain versus other superhero or supervillain. Who would win in a fight, right? That's a fun thing that people do on podcasts. We're four white dudes, right? That's what we do. We talk about this kind of thing. So just to kind of set it up, we'll talk about Darth Vader versus Doomsday, right? It's funny because when you wrote down Doomsday, in my head, I thought Darkseid until 5 minutes ago. I was like, wait, Doomsday is a different character. So I had to quickly think about that. Anyways, so we're talking about Darth Vader versus Doomsday. The other one is Neo versus Doctor Strange, right? And then the third one would be Wonder Woman versus Thor, because that was the big debate, right? Gal Gadot said she would beat Thor, right? She said that one time, right? And became a thing, I guess, right? Anyway, so those are the three fights that we'll be debating, we'll be discussing. And of course, you post your comments if you agree or disagree or whatever, like and subscribe. Oh, but definitely do that. You can check us out on multiple platforms. We're in a podcast version. You can check us out on Spotify, Apple, all that kind of stuff. We're also on YouTube and broadcasting on Twitch, right? So definitely check that out in multiple different formats. But once again, today's show, we'll talk about those fighter versus fighters. But let's introduce the panel here. First, we'll start off with the producer of the show, Acid. How you doing?
I'm pretty good. I'm tired. I finally got back to work this week, so it's time for a nap.
Just like Victor went to, he went back to school on, was it Thursday or Wednesday? Thursday. You also went back to school, taking the little kiddies on the school bus. All right, so definitely good to have you on the show, Acid. Up next is my co-host. He's been very busy. He's a very busy guy. Work's got him doing things. But it's good to have him back. Jeremy, how you doing?
Good. It feels like I haven't done this in a while. I do hate I miss the Matrix conversation. Shockingly, I have very strong feelings about it.
You do have. So I think for the most part, we sort of came to the conclusion that we, for me, just quickly, for me, I was disappointed that it seemed like it was trying to be two different movies, and I feel like it just needed to pick a lane. And it either needed to be the meta commentary that it did with the beginning, or it needed to be just like the sort of like the reboot of the Matrix. It needed to be one of those two things, and I felt like it was kind of doing both at the same time. But quickly, Jeremy, give me your one sentence review of Matrix Resurrections, considering you weren't able to do it.
Full of itself, ripping off other things, terrible.
Okay, very good, excellent. I'm sure. Is full of it yourself? Are you talking about the whole meta stuff that was going on at the beginning?
Yeah. Self-importance. Like it, it's just too much.
I still think that if they would have went with the Matrix wasn't real from the very beginning, like if they just said, "Hey, the Matrix wasn't real," and that would have been fantastic. I would
That'd
actually
have been
love it.
great. You'd have had an entire fandom just crushed.
People
And
would
I'd have
have
been
been
there for it.
angry, so angry. So we got Jeremy, we got Acidtrain, of course. Then another returning fan favorites is
Really?
when I say fans, I mean the three fans that we have that listen to the show. Will Moon, how you doing?
I am doing well. Thank you guys for having me back. I don't want to let down the fans that I just found out about. I have not seen the new Matrix, so I have nothing to add on that topic. I'm not worried about whatever version of spoilers we would call the conversation that just happened. But I do want to get caught up on it soon, but it's just been a chaotic last few weeks. Took an act of Congress to get to see Spider-Man. It seemed like we had our one shot and we used it on Spider-Man. So we'll get to the Matrix soon-ish.
Well, fantastic. Definitely good to have you on. Wikipedia is what we used to call you back in the radio days. How long ago was that? Was it like 12 years ago?
I don't even want to think about it.
That was a long time ago. Just kind of a little history lesson. Me and Will were both on a radio station called Tiger 93.9. I think they changed it again. I think it's right. I think it's back to Tiger 95.9.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
But
I think
Will,
we
I was
have
thinking
more
about you the other
fans
day.
than they do now. That's pretty nice.
Actually, that brings up an interesting thing because Will, I thought about you the other day because I was driving my car and I forgot my cell phone, taking Lexi to daycare. Didn't really want to go back for it, so I was like, you know what? I'll just listen to terrestrial radio on my way to daycare. I don't know if you've listened to traditional radio recently. It is torture. I don't understand who is listening to this anymore because there's just so many things that I don't understand the appeal. Still way too many commercials,
way too many.
Music that gets played over and over again, like garbage, like DJs with commentary. It's brutal. Will, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, you could argue that that's what everybody thought when we were on, but look, we moved to Atlanta because I worked that job up until we moved to the Atlanta area, which we moved around the metro now. We're completely in a different place than we were last time I was on, but I've barely listened to the Atlanta stations. You would think coming from the Auburn, Opelika area that, well, okay, that's small town radio, medium town radio, I guess, mostly independent. Oh, you're going to the big markets, the big stations. And you get up here and they're just worse. They feel worse because they're very safe. They're very programmed. A lot of the things you were just talking about with obviously they have a lot of commercials because that's how they pay their bills. But the music is just the same stuff over and over again. And everything's just kind of lifeless. So yeah, it's one of those things like you, I'm usually got the cell phone and I've got Spotify or, if there's a game I want to listen to, I'll listen to that. But I drive in silence a lot now, which is kind of weird. I don't drive that much because I work from home and I never get to leave this place. But but yeah, it's for somebody for whom radio is such a big part of my life for like a decade now. It's kind of I don't even know what all the stations are in this town that I live in now. Which they're very similar to the ones that were in the previous town I lived in, but I've moved from one side of Georgia to the other, so there's a slight difference. And I may get around to, but it's not a priority. So yeah. I still miss doing it to some extent. I'll catch myself wishing I could still get back into radio or whatever. But then I remember the money and I remember the having to work 7 days a week in the fall type stuff. And I was like, okay, no, I'm good.
I was thinking about, I was driving the car and I was like, you know what? If someone gave me a radio show, like a traditional radio show, like back in the day, right? But I had it today.
An anti-show show for the future. Yeah.
If I brought the anti-show back, like what would I do? Like I was thinking about that when I was driving my car. I was like, and the answer to that question is, I don't know.
Maybe honestly,
this. Yeah.
I enjoyed the video game reviews just as a personal preference. That was nice.
There you go.
Because I did them.
I honestly don't know. The answer would be just do this show.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. That's not our topic today. We're just kind of catching up a little bit. But our next segment, if you're familiar with the show, we catch up first. I kind of caught up with Will a little bit, but I'll kind of extend it to a little bit more. Anything else, Will, you want to talk about? Anything new in your life?
Yeah, well, I mean, we moved. You see this red room that we're in now is a, talking tree and a possessed Kyle MacLachlan just off the frame here. But I'm trying to get the missus into watching Babylon 5. That's Chrissy, a guest of the show, who has been on a few times. And she's never watched it, and I haven't watched it since it was on. I remember liking it a lot, and I was watching it in the late 90s because I caught it right at the end of it running when TNT carried it, and they ran the crap out of it. I'm looking forward. I know they're doing a reboot for the CW. Maybe they announced.
Oh no, are they really?
Yeah, it's Michael Straczynski though, which is interesting. He's just going to come back and do it again. I know there were things he wanted to do in the first show that he didn't get to do because of either technology wouldn't let him or because the networks, what passed for a network they were on wouldn't let him. I know like Delenn was supposed to be a man who became a woman. I can see that being something that they try to reconstitute in a more friendly era to something like that happening in TV. There were some, and obviously if you watch the special effects, it's, you watch that now, you're like, oh, oh. But I'm, that it's just him doing it again. If it was somebody else doing it, that would be really concerning. And that is for the CW is kind of concerning.
Yeah, that's my big concern. I can't think of any CW show that's decent.
Yeah, I mean they were going okay with some of their DC stuff for a while, but I gotta admit I ran out of the time for those. And the idea of it being a bunch of beautiful people being beautiful with like relationship drama that's mostly based off nobody talking to each other is not something that I think Babylon 5 would work with. So hopefully they will allow a break from the usual CW formula if they're going to go forward with this, or they'll move it to like HBO Max, which is where you can watch the old show now, just in case you're curious. So we're just starting. We watched the pilot the other day, and we're just starting on that. Hopefully we can make some progress there. And I also saw The Green Knight last month. I don't know if anybody in this group has seen that. That was my favorite movie of the last year. Just
I've been wanting to see it. I haven't been able to watch it yet.
I'm not a huge King Arthur Legends guy. I mean, I'm fascinated with them to some degree, but I'm not like hardcore about it. But I've always liked Sir Gawain in The Green Knight, or Sir Gawain in The Green Knight, however you want to pronounce it. And this is based obviously pretty heavily off that. And it's just a very enjoyable movie. So that's a strong recommend from me if you're looking for something to watch that's fantasy, but not something that's more from mass audiences, I guess you could say. I like my Arthur movies weird, and this one brings the weird. Too many of them are like that one from a few years ago. They want to make it like an action movie, and I don't want that at all. Don't give me any of that. Give me something weird, because the stories are very weird.
All right, well, very good, excellent. Will's catching up on some Babylon 5. It's one of the shows I never really watched when I was a kid, and I don't know if I want to go back. It's kind of like Doctor Who. Like, I don't want to start a new show and open my nerd heart to another show. I just don't. There's just too much shows on television right now. I don't feel like going back and Jeremy, you have something to say.
I truly envy someone who hasn't seen Doctor Who and gets to experience it all new.
I've never seen Doctor Who. Actually, I take that back. I made it halfway through the first episode and thought this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. I couldn't make it through the first episode.
Like the old, like from the 60s, or the first one?
The one with the mannequins.
With Chris.
I remember a lot of mannequins, and I remember not understanding half of it. And it was me and my wife were both trying to, because like our family talks about it constantly. Like, oh man, Doctor Who's so great, you need to check it out. So we're like, okay, let's watch an episode and see, if we can get into it. And we made it about halfway through the first episode, and we looked at each other and we're like, do you get this? We're like, no. I was like, okay, so we just turned it off.
Maybe I'll check it out one day. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Up next, we have Acid. Acid, what's new with you?
Well, again, got back to work this week. We get back to the bus lot and find out that 6 bus drivers have quit over the holiday season. So now we're short 6 more, which is fantastic. So right now we have about 5 buses just not running at all. So those parents have to figure out how their kids are going to get to school by their own means, whether walking, sledding, or, going by helicopter. It's totally up to them. But they won't be going by bus. But all the kids are back. Nobody's sick that I know of, so that's good. It was really funny the first day, which was Thursday, because we only went Thursday, Friday this week. So Thursday, we drive up to the, all the houses and everything. Well, like, these kids are like, their parents are like shoving them out the door. Like, go to school, get out of here. Get out of my house. And it was really funny, just kind of seeing that push. And they're like, okay, fine, I'm going to school. So I got to deal with that. Other news. Oh, I did join a new fighting league for Street Fighter V with MD Soul.
I thought for a second you were going to say like a street, like a fight club.
I'm a fight club.
I joined into a fight club.
Well, he wouldn't be able to tell us
about
it if he did.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he's breaking the first rule.
But no, MD Soul, CJ Barry, as you know, he's been on the show a few times, has started a Street Fighter V tournament league, and I'm in that. And that will be starting up on the 19th, I believe, is my first match, I think. And of course, it'll be live streamed and all that good stuff on his channel, and it'll be fun. So something to look forward to, and that will be going on up into summertime. So yeah.
Well, fantastic! Definitely check that out. MD Soul on Twitch is he'll be broadcasting his fight club. Brad Pitt will be there. Right?
all the big names will be there.
Off. All those people will be there. Excellent. Well, very good. And of course, we have to mention in Acid, we've been playing a lot of Halo. Me and Acid have been playing a lot of Halo almost every night. Every night playing some Halo.
We almost played every night, but then Anthony, I don't know if this is big news, he ditched me for
I knew you were going to bring this up.
Some other guys,
All right, so this is the scenario. Let me paint the scenario.
He's going to try to defend himself. Go ahead.
I want to paint the scenario. I get on, me and Acid are playing, and then his friend Skeeter gets on, so we have 3 people in the squad playing. And then 2 of my friends get on, so we have 5. You can only play with 4, right? So I'm like, all right, in this particular scenario, this is an awkward scenario, so I'm like, I've already played with Acid, so now I'm going to go play with the other 2 friends. So I kind of left Acid, I left him to go play with my other 2 friends, Bryce and Roger, and of course Acid. I felt like I was ditching him. I feel really bad.
He ditched me, but that's okay because I ended up getting 30 kills in one match. Because he wasn't there.
You won. So. That's true. No, that's most certainly the case. If I'm not there, that's definitely helping other team.
Speaking of MD Soul, look who's in the chat tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, fantastic. What does MD Soul have to say?
Hey, fellas.
Okay, well, very good, excellent. He's always bringing the energy.
Yeah.
But yes, we'll kind of move on to Jeremy. Jeremy, what's new?
Not a whole lot. I feel like I haven't had a whole bunch of time for anything recently. I've got a stack of games to play and things to watch and things to read that I'll probably never catch up on. This will probably make Acid happy. I did at some point over the break start playing Mortal Kombat 11.
Oh, nice. All right.
So I haven't played a Mortal Kombat game since like Mortal Kombat 3.
It's a good one. I think it's a good one.
Nice.
I mean, a lot of people will disagree with me, but I thought it was a solid Mortal Kombat game.
Yeah, so I'm very confused. I have no idea about any of the story or backstory on these people.
Are you going through the storyline?
On 11,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I have no frame of reference for a lot of these things other than just piecing it together.
Yeah.
By
I mean, if you don't know
clues,
anything about Mortal Kombat to this point, I mean, the story is a pretty solid standalone in itself once you get to the end. So.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. I mean, the gameplay of that, it seems like fighting games have now all sort of followed the same format. Like it feels like Injustice, and it feels like several other types of games like that I've played, which I like. I mean, I'd much rather have the story and a little bit of fighting than just pure fighting.
I agree.
Yeah,
I
so
tried to
I'm-
get into I tried to get into Injustice. I couldn't get into it. Like I played it for a little bit and just really I just
I
didn't
bought
feel
it for the story alone. I just wanted to play through the story campaign. After that, I just uninstalled it because it was a fun game. Like I played a few matches just for fun, but I preferred all the little storylines that they had, and it was good.
Jeremy, also I watched. I was flipping through Netflix. I needed something to watch, and you recommended it, so I checked it out. Tick Tick Boom.
Oh yeah.
I enjoyed it. You know what? This is kind of an interesting thing. Andrew Garfield, in terms of the actors that I admire, he is climbing the list. Not obviously with Spider-Man No Way Home. Spoiler alert. And then Tick Tick Boom. I don't know. And obviously, I like The Social Network as well. I've watched that movie several times. But I really enjoy Andrew Garfield. He's climbing the list. You got Chris Hemsworth is at the top. Right? We know
actors?
how. In terms of my affection for the actor, right? In terms of like completely
I mean, he's a pretty
heterosexual
guy, but he is a terrible actor.
That was almost Doc Brown in Back to the Future. The actor.
Jeremy's face froze in one position. That's awesome.
But yeah, so I'm really enjoying Andrew Garfield. Your thoughts, Jeremy?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it even the fact that the three of them were in Spider-Man makes it even more apparent how much more acting talent he has than the other was. I think his time in theater really like took his craft to another level. Because I think he wasn't bad in Social Network, but I think he's significantly better now. And yeah, I thought Tick Tick Boom was fantastic.
And I saw a rumor online. This is probably completely untrue, but there's a rumor that Sony was considering continuing the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man universe.
I did see that. There was going to be him and Venom was going to be the thing.
And Morbius. Morpheus?
Morbius.
Morbius.
I don't know.
Kind of doing like continuing their Spider-Man universe, primarily just on the fact how much we loved him in Spider-Man No Way Home. I mean, that's got to be, if this is true.
There's some fan push for it. I don't know if Sony's gonna do it, but there's some fan push for it.
Yeah, I'm sure Sony would do it. It's got to be. They'll have to work with Disney on the contracting, I would think, because it would. I'm sure it would be a moneymaker, depending on how much they had to pay Disney.
Well, we're almost completely caught up. I almost forgot about myself. I got to talk about what's new with me. And recently, we finished up the fantasy football season. I have two people in the fantasy football league today on the show. Will and Jeremy are both in the fantasy league. And, I made I paid out.
Oh, I didn't realize Will was in it.
Will was in, yeah. Yeah, Will was in the league.
I came in fourth. Big fat fourth place.
Oh my God! Were you the one who beat me by 0.32 point? Oh my!
Yeah.
0.32 points, and I'd have been in the playoffs.
That's fantastic. Well, yeah. So Will, obviously, I was commissioner of the league, which I will never do again because that was an absolutely horrible experience. I think it had a lot to do with our league because here's the thing. It's okay to have one or two a-holes in a fantasy football league, but when you have 5 or 6 and 2 of them are here today, it just makes it so much. It just makes it unfun. And then just all the complaining that was happening throughout the whole league. If you're watching now, if you're in our fantasy football league, and you're watching now. I'm sorry, it's true. Just way too much complaining happening in the league. Anyways. I'm glad to be done being commissioner of the fantasy football. I enjoyed my season. And in fact, if you said, hey, look, we have to keep our teams for next year, 100% I'm all in with my team because my team was fantastic except for Nick Chubb. Here's the part where we talk about our fantasy football team because everybody loves hearing about that.
That's why we're here.
Everybody loves hearing about your fantasy
SciFi Gangstas talking about NFL football.
One last thing. My fantasy football team was amazing, except for Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb destroyed my fantasy, and then James Robertson. But a lot of that had to do with the coach who's not there.
Urban Meyer.
Yeah. Urban Meyer. A lot of that had to do with him.
It's worse when it's coach BS, when the coach just decides not to do something and it like stabs you in the back. Yeah, that's how I got put out of the playoffs. So Jeremy's venom towards me, I can then redirect towards the coach of the Chargers, and also whoever that was that beat me and finished, I think, second. But yeah, good times when they just decided to just not do whatever they were going to do and had been doing all year at the biggest time of the season. You're like, okay, cool, thanks, appreciate it. You also lost to the Texans, so that's your own fault, Chargers.
Mm-hmm. Well, there you go.
Who ended up winning our game, Anthony? The last one between you and me.
It was you that won because I played James Robinson and he was on IR. After I didn't make the playoffs, I didn't care. I mean, there was no reason to.
Yeah, so like that app gave me too much stress. So like when season was done, I just deleted it.
Here's the thing, Jeremy. This is what fascinates me. Will. So Jeremy, this is Jeremy's first time playing fantasy football. Second time playing fantasy football, and he didn't watch the games. I don't understand, if you're playing fantasy football, why aren't you? I mean, that's the whole point.
I genuinely don't understand how you'll have time to watch the games. I mean, that just seems like a lot of time.
They have it on Sunday.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's easy to get too into it though, and then you're getting stressed and like.
That's true.
You're watching like a game on Monday, and you're like, I need this touchdown to happen, but not to this guy. And then you'll see them throw the ball to that guy that you can't have it be, and then you'll like freak out, and then he'll drop it, and you're like, it gets to be a lot. And
yeah, I had enough stress from it without watching, because I got zero satisfaction out of winning, and I hated losing. So it was all downsides.
Well, that's the whole point. So you watch the game, and then you're watching your player play, and when he catches a touchdown, you're like, yeah, awesome, I needed that. But anyways. That's our fantasy football talk for the day on SciFi Gangsters. Let's quickly do my favorite segment and probably Jeremy's least favorite segment of the show, and that is this meme funny? Because here's the thing about this particular segment. It goes great with the podcast version of the show, right? Where we show a meme and we ask, is this meme funny? But here's the thing.
On the radio, you got to paint a picture.
Will, and guess who's going to be painting the picture, Will? It's the guest.
Oh, cool.
All right. Okay. All right, Will, you have to explain this this meme, and you have to let us know, is this meme funny? And we'll take a vote. We'll decide, is this meme funny? Right. So, Acid, you'll be putting the picture on the screen. However, we can't see it, but the audience can see it. Will, I sent it to you. Explain what this meme is.
Meme going up.
Okay, so this is... Okay. So this is Jellicoe Trek. I'm a fan of these. There's a series of these. It combines a few things. One is the character of Captain, I think it's Edward Jellicoe from Star Trek The Next Generation, who appears in one of the show's best episodes, the two-parter Chain of Command. He takes over from Picard as captain of the Enterprise, and Picard, Dr. Crusher, and Worf go on a secret mission. And then that ends with Picard being captured by the Cardassians. Introduces the Kardashians as villains for Deep Space Nine, and also has the there are four lights sort of scenes in the second part. He is played by a great character actor named Ronnie Cox, who was in Deliverance way back in the day, one of his first big movies. He plays the villains in both RoboCop and Total Recall, and is great in both, just pure hammy villainy. And here he plays this like stubborn, stern, very... I'm not sure, very by the book, kind of off-putting captain. Very different from the Picard that we'd all grown to know. So I
have to interrupt you real quick, Will. This is the way you're supposed to be doing this segment. This is how you do it. Will is bringing the knowledge. He's giving the backstory. He's talking about the character. He's talking about the actor. This is how you do this segment. Will, please continue.
Thank you. So if you've never seen that episode of Star Trek or any Star Trek, but you may have seen RoboCop or Total Recall or any of the movies he's ever been in, you're going to know this guy's vibe. Apparently in real life, he's very nice, but he's really good at playing a-holes in movies. So in these memes, they basically have him tell horrible dad jokes. And I'm a dad, so I really appreciate a good dad joke. I just can't wait until my son is old enough to understand what I'm saying so he can groan at me. And so there's a whole series of these. And they should get worse. But like a good dad joke, it just gets better, even though really it is getting worse. But you think it's funny. That's the whole point of a dad joke. So in this, he's walking in a corridor on the Enterprise with Commander Riker, who in the actual episodes did not get along with him at all. And here is the joke. I tried to organize a hide and seek tournament, but eventually gave up. Good players are hard to find. Pause. And then the always finish the meme with the closing credit of the show, which here's executive producer Gene Roddenberry. Bonus points if you change Rick Berman's name to Dick Berman because he was a jackass. So you can do that as well. That's a little variation for those of you playing at home. That is the Jellicoe Trek meme. I think it's funny because it's very anti-comedy. And also, if you know anything about the character or the actor who plays him, it just kind of makes it even funnier. Scene.
Well done. That is how you do this segment. That is how you do Is This Meme Funny? You explain the meme, you put it in its context, you talk about the various components of the meme, the history of it, right? Very similar to the Walking Dead meme where he's talking to his son. Remember that meme, right? Where he does a corny dad joke and that. But yeah, so Will, that's a vote for funny. Jeremy, is this meme funny?
No, it's terrible, and whoever made it should feel terrible.
One of these days, we're gonna get you to say that the meme was funny. Acid, is this meme funny?
It's too simple to be funny. It needs to. I like
Okay.
his more complicated ones, like the ones that you have to think about. Like I like the Jellicoe ones that you really have to you have to take a minute and go, all right, why is this funny? Why am I getting this? And like 30 minutes later, it's like, yes, that's clever, So this one, no, it's not funny.
So Acid's a fan of the Jellicoe memes, but just not this particular one. And of course, I'm coming down on it's funny. I enjoy it. That's a little funny little dad joke. And that concludes Jeremy's favorite segment of the show, and that is this meme funny? So let's go to our featured presentation. And that is our player versus player, our intellectual property versus intellectual property, where we debate who would win in a fight, and which one do you want to start off with? All right, I will decide. We'll go with Darth Vader versus Doomsday. All right, I got nothing, absolute silence, and so I'll go ahead and decide. And we'll say Darth Vader, which I wrote down as Dark Vader, right down here in my note. Maybe a little bit of a combination between Dark Helmet and Darth Vader. But Darth Vader versus Doomsday. Who would win in a fight? And we'll go ahead and start off with Jeremy. Jeremy first. You can kind of go into depth about why this person would win, or just kind of talk a little bit. Who would win in this particular fight? Doomsday, the DC property, right? The Superman villain, or Darth Vader, the classic, iconic, force-bearing Anakin Skywalker guy with the mask. All right, good. All right, so go ahead, Jeremy.
So I think we've got to quantify what we're talking about first. So I'm going to throw out Doomsday from the movie because he's terrible, right? So I'm purely going comic book Doomsday. If we are talking Legends Darth Vader, right? So in the stories that were canon before Disney bought it, right? And you fleshed out the powers of the Force and whatnot a decent amount. I'm going Darth Vader. So okay. in that that world anyway, the powers of the Force were substantial, right? So there were Sith who moved Star Destroyers across solar systems, all right? So Doomsday can't really do a whole lot if Vader just grabs him and hurls him into a sun and the gravity of the sun is holding him there. So that Vader, he wins. We're talking movies, it's got to be Doomsday. So, even if Vader could use the Force enough to keep him away, the lightsaber's not going to be you can't really kill Doomsday, right? The lightsaber's not going to be enough to do a whole lot of damage. Doomsday can't, the stamina is near infinite. So he'll be able to keep coming and coming and coming. Eventually Vader will get tired and fatigued. Doomsday will if he makes physical contact, it's done. So books, Vader, movies, Doomsday.
I like the explanation. I like it a lot. We'll go ahead and move on to Acid. Who's going to win a fight between Doomsday or Darth Vader?
Well, I don't know much about either. I know more, I guess, about Darth Vader. As detailed as Jeremy got on which Darth Vader or which Doomsday, I don't have a fight in that. But if just off of sheer knowledge of what I know about either one of them, which is very little, because I'm more Star Trek than I am Star Wars, so I don't know. I mean, I've watched Star Wars. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I know kind of what's going on, but the intricacies of what he can do and what he cannot do. Yeah, I'd probably go with Vader as well. I would probably go Vader over Doomsday. Just hands down. No specifics.
All right, well, Vader.
Very general.
Vader with his force power and is very slow walking.
Heavy
Darth
breathing.
Vader.
Yeah.
And then so we'll go ahead and move to Will. Will, of course, is always filled with knowledge. Will, who's going to win in a fight, Doomsday or Darth Vader?
I mean, I think what Jeremy said makes a lot of sense when you talk about, because whenever you get into books or expanded universes, you always end up with these sort of crazy powers that are introduced that expand power sets, often past the point where they really work in the universe. But I would say even in just limiting it to the film Vader, the Vader we've seen in the movies, I'm still going to go with Vader. And the reason would be because Doomsday is very animalistic, I guess would be a way to put it. He's not necessarily he's kind of a monster. He really is like a monster. He's not a Kryptonian like a developed mind like Superman or any other Kryptonian. And I think so Vader, I don't think Vader kills him. I don't know if Vader can kill him unless he's given the sort of solar system warping powers that he has in some books. But I think what he does is he just basically Jedi mind tricks him into not being aggressive is how he beats it. Because I just don't think Doomsday mentally is sharp enough to withstand somebody with, again, very vaguely defined powers. But if it was Superman, or if it was a different character from Superman who has similar powers to Superman from his comics, like Brainiac or somebody, I might go with that character because they're going to have the superpowers that Kryptonians have, which are also very vaguely defined. But they're probably going to be a little bit more able to withstand, somebody using the Force on their brain. I don't think Doomsday would be able to. That is a completely ridiculous statement to make, considering what we're talking about here. But that's how I think Vader beats him. I think he beats him with the mind. If they actually get in a physical fight, I agree with Jeremy. Movie Vader, I don't think he can hold up because the lightsaber isn't going to do any damage.
Did Doomsday not have some resistance against telepathy? I was thinking that he actually did resist some mind control stuff,
like someone like Martian Manhunter. That's possible. I know that because Kryptonians, Superman is prone to magic. I guess it just comes down. What do we consider in the Force to be? In the prequels, I guess we have to accept this canon. It is a scientific thing. It's a stupid thing that they introduced in the prequels, but it is a scientific thing and not the even more vague, mystical nature of it from the original movies, and that they mostly tried to get back to in the Disney films. But I think Doomsday can maybe withstand some of it. But I mean, this is the Force. Now we're getting really into the weeds of whether Vader's mind powers are different from Martian Manhunter's mind powers. But I'm still going to go with Vader. I think he'll be able to do something, to outthink him, to beat him. In a physical fight, he loses because none of his weapons are going to do a damn thing against him today.
Well, very good. Excellent. So I have to give my vote. So we have several people saying Darth Vader. I'm going to go ahead and give my vote. And because I am polemical, that's not a word, polemical? Yes. because I'm polemical, I will go with Doomsday. It's because I've never read any Star Wars books, so I'm not very familiar with the Darth Vader canon. I do know Darth Vader is very slow, and Doomsday is incredibly fast and
Because he doesn't
aggressive.
have to move fast. There's the difference. He's not. I don't think he's slow.
And this is my argument. So I'm going to say that because I looked on his Wikipedia page, Doomsday can adapt, right, to anything. So I will say that he will adapt to the Force control and will eventually beat Darth Vader. That is my argument to this. So I'm gonna go with Doomsday is gonna win this battle, right? Once again, it doesn't matter. By the way, does anyone does anyone
These
give
are
their
the conversations that matter. The whole review thing. This is pure geekdom right here. This is what matters.
Why we're
That's
here,
right. Once
ladies
again,
and gentlemen.
We're four white dudes with various degrees of beard debating some comic book character fights. Did anyone give their opinion on that, Acid?
The chat's going so fast, I just can't read it. It's just, it's just a
that's
whole
code
bunch
for
of
no one has
stuff going on right now. So
that is, of course, that is code for no one is watching. All right, so we'll move on to our second debate, and that is our second fight, I should say. I feel like we need a sounder fight. And that is Neo versus Doctor Strange. Neo from the Matrix and Doctor Strange from the Marvel universe. I feel like it makes sense to say, let's keep it to cinematic versions of these characters, right? So with Neo, we're just talking about the films. So we're not really like any sort of comic or video game that sort of extends his character. I'm just going to, for my particular debate, if you want to go into your own thing, you can do that. So no comic book version of Doctor Strange. I'm going pure cinematic version of these characters. Doctor Strange versus Neo. And of course, I'll go ahead and begin. In this particular fight, I think a lot of it has to do with whose territory are we fighting on, because they both have their own particular territories, right? So obviously Neo in the Matrix, he's far more powerful. Just like in Doctor Strange, the mirror universe, he's far more powerful. I think Neo in like the real world, quote unquote, like he has limitations to his powers, although Resurrections, he seems to just use the force push everywhere.
Yeah, he did.
Right.
He just pushes you.
But with Doctor Strange, I think that clearly Doctor Strange wins in this fight. And the reason why is because in the real world, so to speak, Neo has clear limitations to what he can do. And if we're going pure Resurrections, Matrix Resurrections, he doesn't really do a lot except for the force push. Like he's not warping time. He's not doing portals. He's not doing anything interesting. He's just doing force push and martial arts, very boring martial arts. So I'm going Doctor Strange because the diverse range of powers. He can do the little whip thing he likes to do, right? He a little whip that he uses in the bedroom sometimes. He's got a little sword thing that he does, portals, all kinds of contraptions that he does. I'm going to go Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange clearly defeats Neo in this particular fight. We'll go ahead and move on to Jeremy. Jeremy, what are you saying?
So I'll be a little bit more generous and take them both at their best, I guess. So like the latest,
if you can't take them at their best, you don't deserve them at their worst. Wait, it's the opposite.
Yeah. So we'll assume Neo at his most powerful, so probably second Matrix movie. Let's say in the Matrix, and he has all those abilities. And then take Doctor Strange. So movie Doctor Strange to me is a little bit of a moron. So let's say comic book Doctor Strange, right? It's no matter how powerful Neo is, Doctor Strange is a superset of those powers, right? Everything Neo has, Strange has, and he's got a lot more. So it's pretty obvious that Strange wins any day of the week. I mean, not to even factor in the innate intelligence difference between the two, right? Strange is a genius, and Neo's just some dude who can do kung fu.
Well, very good. According to Jeremy, anything Neo can do, Doctor Strange can do better. Right? So we have 2 votes for Doctor Strange. Acid, what do you got?
I thought about this battle, and I think the battle itself would be interesting to watch if it was created in some form or fashion. I've watched all through the MCU so far, most of it anyway. I haven't watched the newest stuff, but I think I've watched all the Doctor Strange stuff and all the stuff that he was in. And from what I can gather, comparing to what Jeremy was saying, Neo at his best, Doctor Strange at his best, and then kind of bouncing off, what you were saying, Anthony, about which world are we talking about? Are we talking about the Matrix? Are we fighting in the Matrix? Are we fighting in, the realm of the strange, which is, there's all kind of the mirror universe. Just anything could happen there. So I think the battle itself would be interesting, as in going back and forth maybe between the two constantly, until the battle was finished. But I kind of envisioned this one ending in a draw. More of a destroying each other or just getting to a point where they can't go any farther. Just all the manipulation, because Neo can stop his bullets and manipulate just a little bit. I'm not going off of Resurrections because it just didn't need to happen. And, minus all the force pushing, we won't talk about that. But the mental game, he kept us cool the whole time. He doesn't ever tire, there's no, is that actually air he's breathing? Is that actually, any of that, and that could be taken in that universe and then opposite mirror universe. So in the end, I think it would end in a nice epic draw. And how this would end. That's my conclusion.
All right. Well, very good. Excellent. Acid goes with the cop-out.
I just want to see. Look, I just
Excellent.
want to see the fight. I just want to see it. I think that would be
Could be very entertaining. Actually, Jeremy brings up an interesting thing I didn't really think about. The cinematic Doctor Strange makes very questionable decisions. Like he doesn't. He does stupid stuff all the time. So maybe that actually complicates it a little more. I don't know. And of course, all you have to do is just be really good at math and you can defeat Doctor Strange in the Mirrorverse. So I don't know. That's a Spider-Man No Way Home reference. All right, Will, who's winning in this fight?
I think Doctor Strange is going to win. I think you guys laid out a lot of the reasons for it. Yes, he does make some questionable choices in the MCU, which most MCU characters do. If you really go back and kind of add things up that have happened over the decade plus this thing's been lurching on. But I mean, at the time stone, if he has the time stone, he's really going to win because he can literally just play all the scenarios out and find whichever one he needs to find to win. Going by, I guess, post Endgame, there's no more time stone. I still think he wins. Even in the Matrix, I think he wins because he can be aware that he's in the Matrix and still use his magic outside of the Matrix on the actual physical form of Neo that's in a dank gray room somewhere hooked up to wires. So I didn't.
By dank,
that might be different
by
now.
By dank, you mean really cool, right?
Yeah, dank. I mean, dank in all meanings.
All the meanings.
But yeah, I mean, I want to see the version where he's in the Matrix and he punches Neo and Neo flies out of his body like you see in all the different movies with the various sorcerers, like you saw famously in this Spider-Man that just came out and that Tilda Swinton did to Banner in one of the Thanos movies, because there's a lot of different visual ways that could play out. But yeah, I mean, Strange pretty much can do anything Neo can do, and also can do a lot more things, like Jeremy said, outside of the world. But he can do almost anything I think Strange can do in the Matrix, and Neo can do in the Matrix. And he would not be vulnerable in the way Neo is vulnerable, where he has to have his physical form off somewhere else. So yeah, I think Strange has got it. Strange's power set, without even getting into the comics, Strange's powers are pretty open-ended. There's very little that he can't do. So I'm going to go Strange.
All right, well, very good. It seems like Doctor Strange was the unanimous decision here. Congratulations to Doctor Strange. You deserve that victory. Man. So, very good. Moving on to our final fight. And I think this final fight, we're going to run into a lot of issues with defining what versions of these characters we're talking about. Right? So, Wonder Woman versus Thor. Wonder Woman versus Thor is the fighters in this category. So this is what I'm going to do to simplify this debate, because you can get into comic versions, video game versions, animated series versions of these characters. I'm going purely cinematic version of these characters. MCU Thor versus DCEU version of Wonder Woman. To simplify, you guys can do whatever you want, right? This is a fun game that we're doing, debating. So I'm going cinematic version of these characters. So you got Wonder Woman and Thor. I thought about this for a while. This still doesn't really help me, because Wonder Woman in the cinematic version, her powers are still not very well defined. Like, is she bulletproof or is she not? Because she's using her little gauntlets to block bullets. But if she's bulletproof, why are you even doing this? What's the point of doing the gauntlet thing unless you're not bulletproof, right?
I don't think she is, though, right?
Okay, so we're saying she's not bulletproof.
I think she's just fast enough to block it now. Because doesn't Robin Wright get killed by a bullet in the first one?
That's true. Yeah, she does get.
Yeah.
That's right. I don't know if she's like. Does she have extra powers other than the other?
It does seem like she's a little more powerful than the other Amazons.
Yeah,
that's true.
I think that's canon in any Wonder Woman thing, right?
Yeah,
right.
Normally, she's at least the peak of them, and in some she's way past the peak. She's
another question that I have that never really gets answered is, can she fly or can she not fly? Right, in the comics, she can fly sometimes.
Sometimes
she got a jet.
Sometimes she just fly.
In the films, it's very inconsistent if she can fly or not. Right, she can jump high, right, but like kind of like a Hulk character. But then at the end of the first Wonder Woman film, it looks like she's just flying, right? So I don't know if she can fly or not. I don't know if this does this change my particular opinion on who's going to win this fight. So we got Thor, does he have the hammer or not in this particular battle? I'm going to say Thor with his axe, the Stormbreaker, right? So I'm not going Mjolnir, right? I'm going Stormbreaker, battling Wonder Woman with her little lasso to makes men tell the truth, right, to her. But yeah, so that's how I'm going to think about this particular battle. And I'm going to go Wonder Woman. I'm going to say Wonder Woman wins this battle because it seems like Thor could easily be defeated. All you have to do is find some sort of technology where you can electrocute him and make him pass out, because we've seen that in Thor Ragnarok that he can be knocked unconscious pretty easily. I don't think I've ever seen Wonder Woman in the films get knocked unconscious, but Thor, I know he does it for comedic effect, right? But I'll say I'm going to go Wonder Woman. I say eventually Wonder Woman wins this particular battle. They're both fast. Obviously, Thor does kind of throws lightning, that sort of thing. But I'm gonna go Wonder Woman on this particular battle, right? Mm-hmm. All right, well, Jeremy, who do you have?
I think it's pretty obviously Thor. Kind of regardless of what iteration we're doing. Wonder Woman, so let's say both have stamina of a god. Wonder Woman's faster, Thor's undoubtedly stronger. Especially if we're including Love and Thunder, which I think has gore in it. So I'm assuming Thor is going to fully get the Thor Force. And once that's done, it's done. But even if we're talking earlier Thor, he's going toe to toe with the Hulk. I think it's got to be Thor.
All right. Well, very good. Excellent. Jeremy going with Thor. Once again, he hates women. That's why he's going with this particular.
That's the misogyny is the most powerful.
You can hear it. Yeah, you can hear it. That's why he hates Ray. He goes on. I
don't hate
4chan.
Rey in Star Wars.
I don't know. I'm going in that direction. Once again, I've been doing all my research for my dissertation has been on toxic fandom. So I'm constantly reading about 4chan and 8chan and that sort of thing. So I'm going to go in that. Anyways, all right. So Acid, who do you got? Wonder Woman versus Thor. Well, it seems like we have a split decision so far.
I'm going to say it ends in a tie. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to. I was kind of leaning on Thor with this one in a heavy way. Not really leaning at all, but more of a Thor would just smash Wonder Woman to bits without a second. That would not be a very quick or a long battle, in my opinion. Jeremy hit all the high points. Like Wonder Woman is fast. She's got the intelligence and stamina and everything, but Thor's just way too OP for Wonder Woman to handle. So I too hate women as well. So
very good, right? Excellent. I'm telling you, both Acid and Jeremy, you're saying woke culture is going too far. That's what you've always said about comic books. All right, very good. That's a joke, by the way.
That's a joke.
Alex Jones is going to pop into this.
If we get famous because of that, you're welcome. You're very welcome. Yeah.
Very good. Excellent. Right.
I did my part.
It's not like that's a popular thing to say on YouTube, that woke culture is going too far. All right, moving on to Will. What do you got? Who's going to win, Wonder Woman or Thor?
This one to me is the one that I think is the most likely to end in a draw. I'm not going to pick that because that's lame. But because they're both good guys and because of the nature of their powers and kind of what they are, there's a very good chance that they fight for a long time and then they just stop fighting because they realize that they're both good guys. But
maybe they make a little love, huh? Will?
Well, I'm going to leave that for you.
Another kind of fandom.
Probably lots of
little fan fiction, or they
already there? We're already headed that way. No, I'm gonna be sneaky and go Wonder Woman only because we're limiting it to the movies, and there's kind of two prongs here because we have this debate. We talk about it's silly, but we do it because it's classic geek stuff. When they made the first Avengers, the now disgraced Joss Whedon had to go through and prioritize in the MCU what did what, and that whole scene where they fight in the forest, all the good guys fight each other after they catch Loki, and then Thor comes and wants to take Loki back. That whole scene exists just to establish the hierarchy of who can beat what in the MCU, because those questions in the Marvel comics are very vague, just as they are in the DC comics of whose powers can trump whose power. So they established that vibranium, since there's no adamantium, since they didn't have the X-Men then, but vibranium is the top. That's the tip top, because you have Captain America's shield is what ends it. And then you see the way that Thor and Iron Man fight, and then the Hulk comes in. Even the Hulk's Hulkness doesn't stop the vibranium. So they had to kind of rank these things. Thor is not at the top of that list. Neither is the Hulk, notably. Now, obviously, again, you go into the comics, the Hulk can throw guns out of orbit and stuff in the comics. He can punch reality and make a hole. There's literally no limit to what he can do in the comics. But if we're limiting it to the movies, then I think, like you said, Ant, I think Marvel has limited Thor more than DC has limited Wonder Woman, which could just be a factor of DC being less defined on what the hell they're doing right now. But they've definitely, because Thor's lost a few times already. He only wins Ragnarok by essentially letting it happen and outthinking what Hela was trying to do. Hela whipped his butt right away. He's been outthought by Loki a bunch, and he doesn't beat Hulk in the fight on Sakaar. In the famous Loki, that's how it feels when he just gets slammed into the ground. So I love Chris Hemsworth as Thor, and Thor, I think, especially in Infinity War, when he shows up at the battle in Infinity War after he kind of levels up in Ragnarok, is really awesome, and it's a really powerful performance from him. I think Wonder Woman wins because the other little prong would be something about Amazons that I don't know if they've straight up said in the movies, but it's a huge part of them in the comics is they will never stop fighting. There's a ruthlessness to Wonder Woman in DC's comics that comes up, especially in the Maxwell Lord prelude to Infinity War, not Infinity War, Infinite Crisis for them, where she will not ever stop. And that's actually been used against her a few times. So I feel like her unwillingness to abandon the battle would have her win. Plus, at the end of the first movie, she is literally a god killer, and he's a god. So that's kind of semantic, but that's really the best we can do when we're splitting hairs like this.
I think it is. If we're talking early Thor in the MCU, I think it is much, much closer than if we are talking later Thor.
He grows in power a lot. I mean, Ragnarok is a big deal for him.
He is, beginning to tap into his power now that Odin is gone. So I think it's a different character at that point.
Although in Endgame, he would have lost that battle if it wasn't for the other Iron Man and Captain America there. He would have lost that battle to Thanos.
To Thanos. Thanos.
Yeah, but that's Thanos with the it's different.
Are we saying that Thanos and Darkseid are on the same level in terms of power? Are we saying that these are the?
Yeah, they should be. Because Thanos is overtly a ripoff of Darkseid. The guy who created Thanos basically admits it. He just kind of took a lot of what Jack Kirby was doing for the fourth world. Again, the things are very. What we see out of Darkseid in the DCEU is essentially a special feature, and a really terrible way to introduce that character. I still can't believe that. I know the Snyder Cut was a big deal for them, but I can't believe that they basically introduced their biggest big bad like that with some random dude playing in a speechless cameo where he forgets the one planet he lost on. What? You would think that's the one planet you would remember what planet it was. That part was weird, but
that is a clear. I think that is the most consistent thing that people bring up in terms of a fault of the Snyder Cut is it you're battling, there's a particular thing that you're looking for on a planet and you lose. How come you don't know where that planet is? You were on the planet before.
And why did Steppenwolf go if he didn't know what was already there?
Right.
Why was he on the planet in the first place to be surprised by what he saw?
Because the mother boxes brought him there.
I know, but wouldn't that tell you that that's what? Where else were there mother boxes?
I think we all have to remember these movies are terrible. Just in every way.
Well, we talked about the Snyder Cut a lot in our Snyder Cut review, and obviously, I taught my comic books to screen class. And we talked about it even more with my students when it comes to the Snyder Cut. And my opinion on the Snyder Cut, I'll kind of keep going back to the same thing that I always say about Zack Snyder. And that is, I always felt that Zack Snyder...
different job.
I always feel like Zack Snyder, this is how he kind of, his game plan when it comes to a film. He thinks about particular scenes that he think are going to look really cool.
He thinks are cool. Yeah, 100%.
And he plans those particular scenes. I'm going to have a particular scene where Steppenwolf fights the Amazonians. And then I'm going to have another scene where, Batman is fighting Superman, right? He thinks of the scenes. And then he just creates a film based around those scenes. I've always felt that that's been Zack Snyder's strategy to any film,
unless he's adapting somebody else's thing.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. That's 100%. I think what happens. And he's not the only filmmaker that does that. It's just he just does it with all of this inordinate amount of mythology that it becomes incomprehensible.
Seth MacFarlane has made a career out of creating content around jokes instead of putting jokes into a story. So you can be somewhat successful at it if you do it.
That's very true. And I'll still say the same thing. Zack Snyder, in terms of if we're talking pure comic book adaptation theory, right? Zack Snyder films are the closest to replicating the feeling of reading a comic book.
Those big event comics, those were because there is no quarter in those. they start, and then you're just like turning a page, and big things are happening over and over and over and over again. You don't get the slow build and the narrative build like you get in the movie normally. So, I mean, yeah, it's like sometimes for better or worse when you watch Batman versus Superman or whatever, and you're kind of dizzy coming out of it because it's 2.5 hours of overstuffed mess. That can be how a Final Crisis type of comic will read. If you're not somebody who's been consuming all of the tie-ins and build-up comics and everything, because they just throw stuff at you. It's, I get it, but at the same time, when you're adapting, you should adapt for the source for the medium you're in. You shouldn't just replicate the medium that you were coming from, because you will always have problems if you do that.
Well, very good. Excellent. We're kind of getting into some of the debates that we had in my class that I taught in the fall.
Are they still making DC movies, or have they given up on that?
I don't know. Oh, don't they have that Flash?
It's hard to say. Go ahead.
Don't they have that Flash movie coming out where they have Michael Keaton reprising his role as Batman?
Go ahead, Jeremy.
No, I was going to say, did Ezra Miller not have any fallout from being a terrible person and choking that fan?
I don't think so.
Do we all just forget about that?
I think WB basically buried that, because they also have him in the Fantastic Beasts thing I'm not watching. But
yeah, that's right.
I did the whole thing about it when I did the couple of articles for the site after the Snyder Cut came out, and the second one was kind of just about what is going on going forward. And it just seems like that they're trying to keep the things that worked and get rid of the things that didn't work, and just sort of letting it weave itself. Because there's going to be another Wonder Woman, although you could argue the second one didn't really work, but there's going to be another Wonder Woman. There's another Aquaman coming, which is pretty much done. They have Shazam, the sequel they're going to make. They have a Black Adam movie that they're finally making after they cast The Rock literally 8 years ago for that role. And they have this new Batman, which is coming out in like 2 months. It's kind of hard to believe, which is supposed to be separate from everything else. But like Anthony said, there's the Flash movie coming out, which could be their Spider-Verse type movie that can sort of come up with a way to keep these things canonical, even though they're supposed to be different, in case they want to tie them all together later. Because you also have like the Joker movie that came out, which is a separate thing even from the Batman that there's. So I don't mind it, just because I don't think anybody's ever going to catch lightning in a bottle the way Marvel did again. I just think that even that happened by accident, and then they just ran with it. Yeah. But I think that trying to keep forcing it is just not going to work. But now the problem is about half of what they did work, and they don't want to get rid of Jason Momoa and Gal Gadot in those roles. So you're left with this weird hodgepodge of Snyder era holdovers, and then just new stuff like Robert Pattinson's Batman and such. So I don't know if we're ever going to see a Justice League again, at least not in the near future, that is tying existing versions of the characters together, because it's just something that they've tried a bunch, even discounting the Snyder movie that got released twice, even going before that with the George Miller movie that was canceled, with some of the other scripts that they've thrown around and put a lot of money into that never got made. They've stuck a lot of money into this and gotten very little back out of it.
All right, well, very good. I will say this one thing before we head out of here today, and that is I am actually very concerned about this Batman movie that's coming out. I know a lot of people are sort of like hyped about it, very excited about it, but there are a couple of things that just don't seem right to me, and I'm really, really concerned. I want it to be good, right? Is it still Matt Reeves that's directing the film, or is it someone else? It is Matt Reeves. Okay, so it is still Matt Reeves, which is good, I guess. He's been a little bit inconsistent, but I'm kind of excited about that. But I'm a little concerned that this film is not going to be very good at all. Will, what do you think?
I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic. I do think Robert Pattinson is a very good actor. Get past Twilight, get that out of your head. Watch The Lighthouse, watch like Cosmopolis, several of the other movies. He can really go as an actor. Kind of like you talked about with Andrew Garfield earlier. Like it's a different thing than just the usual hulky guy they put into a suit for a superhero movie. I like a lot of the casting. Jeffrey Wright is a great Gordon. Zoe Kravitz is a really promising Catwoman. Paul Dano, I think, is going to be great as the Riddler, even if the movie around him isn't really good. I like Colin Farrell in this silly penguin role they got him in.
I love Colin Farrell. That's my highlight in this movie.
Yeah, and he's got the show with him as penguins, which could be very promising. Peter Sarsgaard is in this. He's a good actor. And there's a lot of things to like in the cast, but we could have said that about pretty much all the previous ones. And we know how some of them have gone well and some have gone poorly. The part where it looks like they're doing the thing that I think Kevin Smith put in the comics, where he takes the gun that killed his parents and makes it into the bat symbol, just sounds like edgelord crap, and I do not want that. But there's something to the bat symbol. It's not just some cloth or Kevlar on his suit. It looks like it's got like gun parts in it. So that kind of stuff worries me. They're going back to the Long Halloween, which Nolan used heavily for the first two movies that he made.
Yeah.
It does promise more World's Greatest Detective type action, but it could also be one of those sort of gritty serial killer movies dressed up as Batman that might not necessarily be what they should do. But there's enough talent here. I'm gonna be willing to give them a chance to take me somewhere here. Another gritty Batman isn't necessarily what I'm wanting, but it's what we're getting, and I at least like the talent that they've got assembled for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the most acting talent since Nolan's movies.
Yeah,
and maybe more than some of those.
Yeah, I mean, there's the casting I thought was really sharp. I mean, Paul Dano as the Riddler is the kind of choice that's really inspired, especially for the version of him that they're going to do, which is a more cold-blooded, ruthless, crazy kind of guy, which honestly doesn't really remind me much of the Riddler. But the Riddler's a bit of a malleable character. He can be Jim Carrey in a bodysuit ridiculous, or he can be much more calculating. I don't know if he's ever been this calculating, but that's about Batman characters. There's 80-something years of history for most of these guys, so you can take them in a lot of different directions. They keep going gritty because it keeps giving them the money they want. We'll see if this one gives them the money they want. I suspect it will. Reeves is usually a solid filmmaker. I don't expect they're going to reinvent the wheel, but I think that we're going to get something that's worth seeing.
All right. Well, very good. You guys, you've turned me around a little bit. I'm a little more optimistic about the Batman movie that's coming out then. Excellent. All right. So that is our show today. We concluded with our debates. Don't forget to check us out on Spotify and podcast version. You can also check us on Apple as well. We're also on YouTube and Twitch. For Will, Jeremy, Acid, I'm Anthony Denard. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye, everybody.